History is full of twists and turns, but sometimes the truth is stranger than fiction. Have you ever heard of a ship sinking in the same way as its fictional counterpart? Or how about two strangers connected by fate across decades? Get ready to have your mind blown as we dive into the top 10 unbelievable coincidences in history. Let's start with a chilling coincidence that has left many speechless. In 1898, author Morgan Robertson wrote a novel titled Futility or the Wreck of the Titan, about an unsinkable ship that meets a tragic end after hitting an iceberg. Sound familiar? 14 years later, the real-life Titanic met a nearly identical fate. Both ships were considered unsinkable, both were strikingly similar in size, and both struck an iceberg on an April night. If that's not enough to give you chills, I don't know what will. Moving on to our next mind-boggling coincidence, Abraham Lincoln and John F. Kennedy, two of America's most iconic presidents, separated by a century yet connected by an eerie series of coincidences. Both were elected to Congress in a year ending in 46 and became president in a year ending in 60. Both were shot in the head on a Friday while sitting next to their wives. And get this, Lincoln had a secretary named Kennedy, and Kennedy had a secretary named Lincoln. If this doesn't make you wonder about the threads of fate, nothing will. Next up, a story that seems almost too surreal to believe. In Finland, two twin brothers died in identical accidents just hours apart. In 2002, one brother was hit by a truck while riding his bike, and only 2 hours later his twin was struck and killed by another truck while riding his bike on the very same road. The odds of this happening are astronomically low, yet it did. Was it pure chance, or something more? You be the judge. Now let's dive into a story where history and superstition collide. On June 20, 1941, Soviet archaeologists opened the tomb of Tamerlane, a fearsome 14th-century conqueror, despite warnings that his resting place was cursed. Inscribed on the tomb were the words, "Whosoever opens my tomb shall unleash an invader more terrible than I." Just 2 days later, Hitler launched Operation Barbarossa, the largest invasion in history against the Soviet Union. Coincidence or curse, that's for you to decide. Next, we have a literary coincidence that will make you question the boundaries of fiction and reality. Edgar Allan Poe is best known for his dark Gothic tales, but did he predict the future? In his 1838 novel, The Narrative of Arthur Gordon Pym, Poe wrote about 4 shipwreck survivors who, starving and desperate, resorted to cannibalism. One of them, named Richard Parker, was eaten by the others. Fast forward to 1884 when a real-life shipwreck occurred, and yes, you guessed it, one of the survivors who was eaten was also named Richard Parker. Did Poe glimpse into the future, or was this just a bizarre coincidence? Moving on, let's talk about Tsutomu Yamaguchi, who might just be the luckiest or unluckiest man in history. Yamaguchi was in Hiroshima on a business trip when the first atomic bomb dropped on August 6, 1945. He survived, badly burned but alive, and returned home to Nagasaki, only to be there when the second atomic bomb fell 3 days later. Yamaguchi survived both bombings and lived to tell the tale, making him one of the few people in history to experience such a terrifying coincidence. Next up is a tale of two men who shared more than just a passing resemblance. King Umberto I of Italy once walked into a small restaurant and was stunned to find that the owner looked exactly like him. As they talked, they discovered even more eerie similarities. Both were born on the same day, in the same town, and both married women named Margarita. But the coincidence turned dark when the restaurant owner was shot and killed the next day, and King Umberto was assassinated just a few hours later. Sometimes the line between fate and coincidence is razor thin. Now let's take a look at the strange life of Violet Jessup, a stewardess and nurse who holds an unbelievable record. She survived not 1, not 2, but 3 maritime disasters. She was on board the RMS Olympic when it collided with a warship in 1911, the RMS Titanic when it famously sank in 1912, and the HMHS Britannic when it was sunk by a mine in 1916. Jessup's brush with death 3 times over is one of history's most extraordinary coincidences. Our next story is one that will make you question everything you know about chance. In the 1800s, 2 men who looked exactly alike, so much so that they could have been twins, boarded the same train, sat next to each other, and discovered they had the same name, William West. But here's the kicker: they weren't related. This led to a massive change in the prison system's identification process, as authorities realized that fingerprints were more reliable than facial recognition. And finally, to wrap up our list, let's revisit the French Revolution. King Louis XVI was executed by guillotine on January 21, 1793. Exactly 9 months later to the day, his wife, Queen Marie Antoinette, met the same fate. The timing of their deaths, so precisely aligned, has led some to believe that fate played a hand in the end of the French monarchy. And there you have it. 10 unbelievable coincidences that make us wonder just how much control we really have over our destinies. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to hit that like button, share it with your friends, and subscribe for more incredible historical stories.